What if the miracle didn't come when you prayed? What if it didn't come when you begged? What if it didn't come when you were faithful, but only when you had nothing left? No strength, no options, no water. Only desperation, and a choice to trust anyway. They had already been walking for weeks, through heat that never softened, through sand that never ended. And now, there was no water left. Children cried first, then the animals collapsed, then even the strongest men began to panic. This wasn't discomfort anymore. This was the kind of thirst that breaks people, the kind that makes fear louder than faith. And standing in the middle of it all was Moses, a man who had seen miracles before, but had never seen this, because this time, God was silent. No pillar of fire, no voice in the night, no clear direction forward, only a crowd behind him, a desert in front of him, and the sound of people asking the same question. Why did you bring us here? Just to die? This is the story of the moment when faith was tested, not by enemies, but by absence. The crowd didn't wait long. Fear never does. It started with whispers behind Moses, then voices, then shouting, not prayers, not cries for mercy, accusations. They remembered Egypt now, not as slavery, but as certainty. At least there was water there. At least there was food. At least they knew what tomorrow looked like. And all of it began to land on one man, Moses, the leader who promised freedom, now standing still, with nothing to offer. Every step he took forward, the people pushed closer behind him. Faith wasn't just fading, it was turning on him. Moses had led them out of chains, through the sea, into freedom. But now he couldn't lead them to water. He looked at the people he loved, the people he fought for, and saw something he hadn't seen before. Hatred. Not because he failed them, but because they were afraid. And fear always looks for someone to blame. Moses knew the truth. If nothing changed, they wouldn't just turn away from him. They would turn against him. So he stepped away from the crowd, away from the shouting, away from the noise. And for the first time since the desert began, he fell to his knees. There was no speech, no dramatic words, only exhaustion. Moses didn't come to God with confidence this time. He came with honesty. He didn't ask for power. He didn't ask for signs. He asked what every worn-down leader asks. What am I supposed to do when the people don't believe anymore? He had no plan, no solution, no strength left to borrow, only obedience and the willingness to listen. And in the quiet, when everything else had failed, God finally spoke. God didn't promise rain. He didn't point to a hidden stream. He gave an instruction, a simple one and a confusing one. Moses was told to take the staff in his hand, the same staff used before, the same one that had been there through every miracle. And then God directed him to a rock, not a spring, not a well, a rock, solid, dry, unmoving. Nothing about it suggested life. Nothing about it suggested hope. But Moses stood anyway, holding the staff, staring at something that had never given water before. Everyone was watching now. The same people who were shouting before were silent. Moses raised the staff, not with confidence, but with trust. He could feel their doubt behind him. He could feel the weight of expectation. If nothing happened this time, there would be no second chance. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't defend himself. He simply obeyed. And the staff came down. The sound came first. Not thunder, not an explosion, a crack, then another, and from a place that had never given life before. Water began to move, not a trickle, not a drop, a flow, clear, cold. Enough, it spilled across the ground, over dry feet, into empty hands. Children ran first, then the animals, then the people who had doubted the loudest. The rock hadn't changed, but everything else had. No one shouted this time. No one complained. No one accused. They drank quietly. Some wouldn't look up. Some wouldn't look at Moses, because they remembered what they said, what they believed, what they almost did. The miracle wasn't just water, it was timing. God hadn't arrived late. He had arrived after trust was gone, and that realization settled heavier than thirst ever had. Most people remember the miracle, but miss the order. The water didn't come first. The obedience did. The answer didn't come when the crowd was faithful. It came when they were empty. This wasn't a reward for belief. It was a reminder that God isn't limited by what looks possible or by what looks too late. Even when faith feels gone, even when hope feels dry, provision can still come from places that look lifeless. This story teaches us something quiet, but powerful. That silence does not mean abandonment. That delay does not mean denial. And that what looks like an ending may only be the place where faith is finally tested. Sometimes the answer doesn't come when we're confident. Sometimes it comes when we're empty. And sometimes what sustains us comes from places we never would have expected. Not because we were strong, but because we were willing to trust, even when everything felt dry.